back to Advocacy in Motion. For those of you who have seen us before, you know our mission here is to give a vision and a voice to nonprofit organizations and to individuals who are making an impact in our community. And we have that today. I am so pleased at our guest today and what we'll be talking about. But before I introduce our guest, I want to just mention that Niagara Corporation has come on board as our presenting sponsor. We're really thrilled with them. And if you don't know, they are the nation's leading manufacturer of water-conserving plumbing products, and their new Stealth toilets save up to 60% of water, and 60% of water means 60% of money being spent for that. And we're especially proud of their association with nonprofit organizations, affordable housing, and multi-unit organizations and construction to save money where it's really needed the most. So go to Niagara.com and check them out if you're in that business and want to save some money. So thank you to Niagara for being our sponsor. Today I am so thrilled to introduce my co-host. You know her as Dallas Cowboys Sideline reporter. She is the host of the Jerry Jones Owner's Box segment, numerous Dallas Cowboys podcasts and broadcasts, and my friend Kristi Scales. Welcome and thank you for joining us.
Tommy, we've worked together for so long. I don't want to put a date on it, but we've known each other for over 30 years. And one of the great things that I love working with you all of these decades is your commitment to great organizations and helping fund them. And one of the things I love most about my job, I mean, being on the sideline at an NFL game is super exciting. Didn't go so great in the fourth quarter this past weekend there at Green Bay. Normally that's a favorite road trip is Lambeau. But when you're back at home during the week, there's so much that goes on with the players and the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders and the community relations department of the Dallas Cowboys. And been to so many great events and organizations, and one of my favorites is the Ronald McDonald House of Dallas, and it's just a real pleasure to be able to introduce you to Jill Cumnock, who coming up in December is celebrating her 12-year anniversary as the CEO, Chief Executive Officer of Ronald McDonald House Dallas. And I have to ask Jill, of all of because you have a very impressive resume, but what was it about the Ronald McDonald House that initially drew you in?
Well, first, it's the reputation of this organization and their mission. And my passion has always been children and families, and especially children in hospitals. I thought I was going to be a child life specialist. So it really was just a perfect fit for my passions, for my skill set, and just this organization is amazing with what they do for families.
And it's interesting, I pulling it back to football just real briefly. And again, this is my 32nd year with Dallas Cowboys, and it pains me to say this, but I have to give credit to the Philadelphia Eagles for something, because it was the general manager of the Philadelphia Eagles back in 1974, I believe. Is that right, Jill? Where one of the players' daughters was battling a serious illness. And so the GM of the Eagles got together with the advertising agency and got together with McDonald's, and thus Ronald McDonald House was born. And so it started in Philadelphia. Now it's worldwide. But tell us about the Dallas location and how long it's been around and how many people you serve.
So our house was the 22nd house to open in 1981. And we started out as a 10-bedroom house, and we expanded to 20, and then to 30, and then moved locations, and we were at 58. And then right before the pandemic, we expanded again, and now we can serve 89 families.
That's amazing. I've had the pleasure to visit the house many times, and just not the facility as such, but the people there, the staff, people who work with you, and just walk in, and everybody is just so welcome and just so relaxing and do so much good down there. And you know, it's, if you haven't been to the house, you've got to somebody go by and check it out. And I know you enjoy having guests down there and show them what you can do.
I do. And, I tell all of my new staff members, I meet with them briefly to do an orientation, and I tell them that I want every single person who walks through our doors, most especially the families who need our services, to have it feel like Grandma's house meets Disney World meets Ritz-Carlton. All the love and compassion you would feel when you're visiting your grandparents, the fun you would experience at Disney World, and the excellent customer service you would expect at a Ritz-Carlton. So that's kind of the experience that we want these families to have. They're going through an incredibly difficult time when they walk through our doors, and we are there just to try to make it a little bit easier for them if we can.
And what is the average length of stay for a family? So if, a child is sick, they need to come to Dallas. So you work with Children's Medical, Scottish Rite, and all of that. But is there kind of a common theme of how long? And when we say guests, we're talking about the whole family. So is it units of 5, basically?
It can
Families
be,
of 5, it can be?
Yeah, it really depends, because it's not just mom, dad, patient, siblings. Sometimes it's grandparents. It's whoever they need to have there with them. And so I would say our average length of stay is currently about 2 weeks, but we have families who may be coming back just for a follow-up visit, so it may be 1 or 2 nights. But we also had a family who stayed with us for just over 2.5 years recently. Wow. So it really depends on what brings them to Dallas, sometimes how far they're coming, because we do have families who travel internationally to get the treatment that they need, and just really what that treatment plan looks like. As long as they are still being treated and there's a goal to get them back home, then we can take care of them.
And let's talk specifically about the house program there with Ronald McDonald House, Dallas. And we're so thankful in North Texas, Ronald McDonald House, Fort Worth, the work that Jennifer and her staff do there. But there are 3 hot meals a day, but then a lot of it's almost like suites where families can prepare their own food. Is that right?
So we have actually 6 transplant apartments. So those are for families whose child has had either a bone marrow, stem cell, or solid organ transplant. So those actually have a kitchen in them. In our new wing, we have 6 long-term stay suites. So no kitchen, but there is a mini fridge, and they can have snacks in their room. But the meals that the volunteers come in and cook and serve for our families is one of the biggest benefits, I think, for our families, because they come back after a long day at the hospital and they don't have to worry about what am I going to cook for dinner and all that kind of stuff. So they can just come in and eat a meal that's prepared by our families. And we do have a family kitchen. So if they don't want what the volunteer group has prepared, or their child, has a favorite kind of comfort food that they want on a certain day, they can go into the family kitchen and cook it in there.
Now, those kitchen facilities are quite remarkable. And you have corporations that come in that volunteer and do the cooking. And tell us about how that came about in some of the corporations that work with you and cook for the families there.
So it can be a corporation, it can be a civic group, it can be groups of friends, it can really be anybody and everybody. So some of the ones that are there on a more regular basis, the Dallas Service Forum, they come in, they're a volunteer group of women, and they come in and cook 10 meals a month, and they've been doing this, probably more than almost 40 years, if not 40 years, they've been doing this. Southwest Airlines comes in with multiple groups. A lot of corporations, Ryan is doing those, Invesco, just so many different companies. But it's also the YMSL groups and the NCL groups. And, of course, our staff loves to cook as well, so we try to do that. And our board comes in several times a year to cook meals.
What about those of us who are individuals who want to get involved, or maybe we're retired, or our corporation or community group isn't specifically working with the Ronald McDonald House, but we're interested? What are some different ways that we can be used, and what kind of time and effort is involved with that?
So, of course, the meal program is a big way, and currently the group plans the menu. You go buy the groceries, you come and prepare it, cook it, and serve it, and it's a great way to interact with the families. But we also do activities for our families, which we are so happy to be able to do again. We had to put so much of what we did on hold for the last few years. So, you can host a bingo night, or you can come in and host a craft night or a game night, or just plan any kind of fun activity for the families, because they need those distractions, and the siblings need that activity, as well as the parents and the grandparents. And about 50% of our patients are outpatients, so they are also in the house. So it's really anything you can think of that would make life a little bit more enjoyable for these families.
Yeah, you mentioned the disruption the last couple of years. I'm sure you're referring to the effects of COVID. How did it impact the Ronald McDonald House, Dallas, in specific ways?
Well, like many others, it was hugely impactful. But the first thing we had to do, which was painful, was we had to stop allowing volunteers and our volunteer groups into the house. And then we actually had to pause bringing in new families for about 10 weeks while we kind of put together some protocols and created a plan on how we were going to be able to safely provide treatment or provide housing to these families while they were getting treatment for their kids. So while we always had families in the house, we just couldn't bring new ones in. And so after 10 weeks, we were able to slowly start bringing them back in, but we had to do things so differently. And all of the common spaces in our house were closed. Families all of our meals had to be served in to-go containers that they had to eat in their rooms or outside. So it was, and not having volunteers there, it felt like a ghost town. It just, the warmth and the love that I think those volunteers especially bring, and just having people in all those common spaces in our house. And so you could walk through the house and not see anybody. It was a very different feel. So, we are slowly kind of getting back to normal because our families have a child who is immune compromised. We are still having to be a little bit more cautious than most businesses are, and we're still requiring our volunteers to be vaccinated, and we're still masking. And so, because we've got to protect those kids and their families.
Very good. I know you mentioned COVID and shutting down. One time we had visited about doing a television show from your kitchens with my grandson and his Hunteroo's Kids Cooking for Kids nutritionist show. And we were working with our friends over at Channel 5 to produce the show. And then, like everything else, COVID hit and kind of put those aside. And who knows? I think we may do that again sometime. I think it was a great idea. So I know that's great. And speaking of that, take a little break here, but one of our sponsors, been with us forever, is Piranha Haven, the spiritual gift shop in downtown Richardson, which is owned and run by my daughter, Alex. You guys know Alex. You're good friends, and her mother, Terry. And it's just really doing wonderful down there, some of the things that they are doing, and they're helping so much in the community. But if you're looking for gifts, a little commercial time for them here. Piranha means energy or life force, and that's what they do there. It's what you'll find. Gifts from free trade villages, handmade jewelry, artists, local artists, and of course the fourth Saturday of every month they have their psychic fair. So anybody can go on piranhahaven.com and get a list of all the readers they have available, and of course you can show up at any time in downtown Richardson on McKinney. And I kind of tie all this together because I think, as you know, my grandson, we talk about Hunter and his kids cooking for kids. When he was 1 year old, he was very ill. He had a rare disease called OMS syndrome, and the specialist said, you've got to get him to the University of Southern Illinois Hospital like now. Get him up there. And so Terry and her mother took Hunter up there, and first thing they were welcomed by Ronald McDonald House, and they still talk so highly of just what that took off their plate as far as worry and well they were treated. We're so happy to say that Hunter is now 16, and he still wants to be a chef, and we still may do the show at Ronald McDonald's house, but we have a very personal connection with the house up there, and now obviously getting to know you and everything. So we're just so grateful, and it's just a wonderful place,
Yeah, and I think it's really touching that you shared that story, Tommy, because Jill, I would imagine that it's the families, the parents, the grandparents. I mean, we think of it as you're helping the kids, but I think the whole thing about Ronald McDonald House is helping the whole family unit, and it's often the caregivers who are overlooked, or maybe I should say overwhelmed, and yet they're the ones that I know that you're really targeting as well.
Oh, absolutely. I think some of the families that I've had the honor to get to meet and get to know over the years have certainly impacted my life in ways that I never would have expected. And, sometimes I tend to get to know the families that are either come by frequently. They have a lot of different appointments and have to come in town often for that, or the ones that come and stay for an extended period of time because they're around and I get to meet them. And there's one family that I think of often, and the mom and I have become really close. And, every time she's there, we always try to, set aside some time so I can get up to date on what's going on. And her son is actually soon going to be transitioned from a pediatric doctor to an adult doctor. And so she was really worried that all these changes, this is where her comfort is. She's been treated for so long at Children's Medical Center and now having to transition to UT Southwestern. And fortunately, we can serve children until they turn 22, and he's 20. And so they can continue to stay with us while he's being treated in Dallas. So at least there's a little bit of a transition for her. But I just remember talking to her at the very beginning, and you think about these families and their lives are so different. Her son was born with a congenital heart defect, and she told me that she always had a bag packed, and she never let her gas tank get below half a tank because she just never knew when she might have to jump in the car and drive to Dallas to get him to the hospital. And I'm thinking that's a stressful way to live. And she had 2 other children as well, and her life is just very different. And he actually had a heart transplant about 5 or 6 years ago, and is doing really well. But they had actually put off a Make-A-Wish trip to New York. They were going to watch the ball drop, and they couldn't be guaranteed that they had an indoor place to watch that happen. And with his health, he wasn't going to be able to be outside. And so they decided that that wasn't going to work. So they canceled it. And it was actually on New Year's Day that they got the call that he had a heart. And had they taken that trip, they wouldn't have been here because you have to come off the list if you're more than 2 hours away. So it was meant to be. And, you hear those kinds of stories and you just think, wow, I just can't even imagine living that life.
No, but why you love what you do and why it's so important. A question, though, how do most of these families find the Ronald McDonald House? Are they referred to by the healthcare providers?
Yeah, it is usually their social worker or a member of their medical team that refers them to us. So, they know where these families are coming from, and all of our families have to come from at least 40 miles away. Otherwise, you can go back home at the end of the day. So and sometimes it's different foundations that refer them, or sometimes the parents are doing the research themselves. But the majority of the time, they are all coming to us through a referral from a social worker or member of their medical team.
And I think one of the most important things is to know that no family is turned away because of an inability to pay.
Absolutely. We don't ask our families to pay anything. If they want to make a donation when they leave, of course, we'll always accept that, but no family has to pay. They already have enough financial stress in their lives. They're often missing work because they're here, so you might have a loss of income. But also, you've got oftentimes out-of-pocket medical expenses, and if you were to then have to pay for a hotel and meals and internet and laundry, and we provide the transportation to and from the hospital so they don't have to pay for parking. So all that really adds up a lot. So we kind of think that it's saving about $3,700 for a 2-week stay.
Wow.
That is amazing.
It really is.
And again, just taking the worry off of them in all cases, whether it's just the medical, the place to stay, the financial. It's just such a wonderful thing for these families to be able to find that. And I know it was with my family. They still, when I told them you guys are going to be on the show today, they just lit up and they said, "Oh, just tell Jill we said hello and how much you guys mean to them." So.
Well, we have families who will tell us that, they often, it's hard enough you get this diagnosis, and so you're already in shock. And then sometimes when they find out that, there's this treatment, but you have to go to Dallas, and then they have to fight insurance often to get the treatment covered. And so then they're thinking, okay, but I don't know anybody in Dallas. How am I going to afford to make this possible? And then they find out about the Ronald McDonald House, and they say that they feel like they've won the lottery because it's the one little thing that makes it all come together and makes it all work.
Yeah. I want to ask you about one of my family's favorite traditions, and it's this time of year, and one of the great events in North Texas that families enjoy is the Trains at North Park. And could you talk about the tie-in to Ronald McDonald House and what that exhibit, the holiday exhibit at North Park Mall, means for your organization?
Oh, absolutely. It is our largest fundraiser. So it raises about 25% of our total budget. So it's incredibly important to our house. And it truly is a holiday tradition. It started back in 1987. So we've been doing this for a very long time now. And we have parents who are bringing kids who came when they were kids. And so, because it's been around long enough for that. And it's just such a wonderful holiday event to go attend, and every sale of every ticket, 100% of that comes back to support the families at the Ronald McDonald House. So just by going and doing a fun activity, you're making it possible for us to serve these families.
Yeah. And it's indoors, and you can get some holiday shopping done, and it actually extends beyond Christmas Day itself. So started this past weekend on November 12th and runs actually through the first week of January 6th. Is that right?
That is correct.
Oh my gosh, that really is.
It is
Yeah, it's
fun
very
over
cool.
there. It is great. And you talk about fundraising and sport. I know one of the misconceptions having the McDonald name is that McDonald Corporation just gives you all this money and all this stuff, which is not true. I mean, you're pretty self-sufficient as far as from what I've learned. Is that correct?
That is correct. So McDonald's is our founding mission partner, and our local McDonald's owner-operators are supportive. And so when you go to a McDonald's, if you're buying a Happy Meal, McDonald's owner-operators donate a penny per Happy Meal to us. If you're buying French fries, they donate a penny per pound of French fries. And also now you can round up for RMHC. So if you are paying with a credit card or cash, if you round up to the next nearest dollar, that money also goes back. And then, of course, the canisters. And so we receive a portion of that money because it actually goes to our local charity chapter. But, the money that we receive that comes through McDonald's is about 10% of our total budget. So it definitely is impactful. And we are very appreciative of our McDonald's owner-operators and the support they provide to us.
Right.
Have you been able to have your camp the past? I know because of COVID, there might have been a couple of years where you can't do it. And isn't that usually a summer camp?
It is, and it's a way for those parents to kind of get a much-needed break. They still stay on our property, but they can go take a shower, take a nap, make a phone call, do whatever, while we have volunteers and a camp director entertain their kids on site. And so we have not been able to do that, but we are really hopeful and think we will be able to do that this next summer. And it's called Camp Cornett, and it is named after our founder, Joanne Cornett, who passed away a few years ago.
Oh, what a wonderful tribute! That's a great, and the new wing that I guess it's been a few years now. The family for whom that's named, and how much did that increase the capacity of the number of people that you can serve?
So we added 30 rooms when we did that expansion. So that was huge for us. We were turning away about 1,000 families a year, which is so hard. And I'm so glad I was not the one having to take those phone calls, because they would have parents in tears when they found out we didn't have a room for them. So that has certainly increased our capacity tremendously. And we're also serving families through our family room at Scottish Rite Hospital in Frisco. And that's for anybody who has a child who's getting day surgery there or is having an infusion. So that's kind of where we're located there. And we have a lot more family rooms on the horizon. And our first hospitality cart at Cook Children's Hospital in Prosper will be opening at the end of this year. So it's just another way to serve families. We'll have a cart that is mobile that volunteers will take around, and while Child Life will be supporting the patients, we're there to kind of support the parents and provide items to them that would be helpful for them while they're sitting day in, day out in the hospital.
Well, that's key. I'm glad that you mentioned Prosper and Frisco. I actually, many years ago, helped at the family room, the one at Scottish Rite in Dallas. But so I'm just thinking of volunteer opportunities for people who maybe the hospital district in Dallas is not convenient for them, but They could, if someone wants to get involved, whatever part of North Texas, or this podcast goes out internationally, and there are Ronald McDonald houses in 62 countries around the world. What's the best way? Should we go online? Should we just look it up and call directly? What's the best way to get involved?
I would definitely say go online. Our house and every house has a page on there where you can learn more about volunteering. And it takes a lot of volunteers to be able to make it possible for us to do what we do, because, as a nonprofit, to be able to pay everybody to do it would be hard. And even at the trains, that requires a tremendous amount of volunteers, about 1,200 each season. So we couldn't do what we do without the support of our community and the volunteers who give their time.
Yeah, and Tommy, the latest figure that I saw, and Jill may be able to correct me, but over 7,100 Ronald McDonald houses around the world. I mean, some of those maybe some of the
some
rooms,
of those are
the rooms,
programs, yeah.
or the programs in the rooms, but 62 different countries, and then the headquarters is Oak Brook, Illinois. But you guys are able to. Is it autonomous for your different markets? You guys are able to implement the programs that are best for your specific area and specific needs?
Right. We kind of work with our different partner hospitals, see what the needs are here, and do our very best to meet them.
We've got the trains at North Park. It's going to be a lot of fun. Those are always great. Anything coming up after the first of the year? Anything we need to you could tell us about as far as fundraisers or events or anything coming up as we go forward?
So we always do our annual Under the Moonlight Gala, and next year it will be on April 21st. And so that's always just a fun party. It's going to be at Northwood Country Club this year, so which is where it was supposed to be in 2020, when 2 weeks prior we had to cancel it. So we're excited to have it back, and we were able to have a gala this year, which was the first one I have ever missed because it conflicted with my son's college graduation. Oh. So it was painful to not be there. But so that's our next big fundraiser that we do.
All right, terrific. I know, we've known each other for a long time, and I worked with your husband for many, many years, and he is now the director of CEO of Wipe Out Kids Cancer. And we hope to have him on the show here soon. I know we will, but I think it's great what you guys do in the community. I know Chris has always been supportive, and you've been supportive of things that we have done in the past with Kristi and other charities and stuff. So it's great to have you on. It's great to have you here. And
yeah, I have one last question though.
Yes, okay.
Because you have this power couple that's married. You got Chris and Jill. They're both CEOs. So who gets to choose the movie or where to go to dinner? How does that work?
Well, it's really, we kind of more argue about who has to pick it, because I think we both make so many decisions all day long that I'm like, I don't care where we go or what we do. You just make the decision. So I think it's more like that than it is trying to, get our own way. But it is fun having him join the nonprofit world, and he has always had a huge heart and a desire to help people, and so he's kind of come over to the bright side by joining the nonprofit world.
Hey, the Cumnocks are on a roll, right? Your son's at TCU, and they're undefeated, and another big win, and going to be maybe in the playoff picture here in college football.
That would be awesome if they were. Yeah,
that is great. I want to thank you so much, and Kristi. I mentioned that one of our partners in one of our companies is Youth Sports Today magazine, and Kristi is helping us out. She is going to be working with the broadcast journalist students at Liberty Christian School and Argyle Independent School District in Northwest. They're really excited about it, and again, I told them you're going to be on the show, and they goes, "Oh, tell her we said hello." They're really big fans of yours, and we appreciate that. It's going to move forward, and then next semester we'll be working with them and developing the Kristi Scales broadcast scholarship program. So thank you so much.
I'm so honored. I can't. That's going to be unbelievable, and I can't wait to see the work. That's going to be hard. How do you choose that? I'll have to call Jill and get some advice on how to make all of these decisions.
That is great. Well, I mentioned that Niagara is one of our sponsors. They also sponsor our magazine. They'll be part of all that in that program as well. And they have other shows here at the Vocal Studios that they sponsor. One is Let Me Tell You Something with our friends Nate Newton and Isaiah Standback, the Dallas Cowboys show, and a new show, which we'll record right after this one, Hit It Where They Mow, Talking Golf in Texas with Pat Wheeler. And we're proud to have them on board here at Vocal Studios, and as Niagara being a sponsor of those as well. So,
you were telling me Niagara helped out Jill and Ronald McDonald House.
I think you guys have been talking. They want to visit
that's
going to
be great.
Trying to save, and that's one of the really great things Niagara does is work with nonprofit organizations to help them save money, and especially in affordable housing and multiple unit housing and stuff. So that's great, and I hope that works out as well for you guys as it is working out with Volunteers of America, that they're helping them with their affordable housing program. So that's great. Well, thank you both for being here. It's been wonderful. It's good seeing you all again, and hopefully, we can get some support and get some, as we say, advocacy in motion. We're trying to put some motion behind some of the support out there. So thanks again.